Amen. So for scuba, the whole theme, and it's a little hard to read, but you can see it up there, diving into friendship with God. So one of the things that we always want to make sure that kids know is how much God absolutely loves them. And I think this is important also for adults to think sometimes too. And if you've ever stopped to think about what does it mean to have a friendship with God, I think it's something that should absolutely challenge us, sometimes possibly even blowing our mind. When you think of God, who is the creator of everything, he is the one who is all powerful, he is all knowing, and he is absolutely everywhere and holds everything in the palm of his hands. Sometimes, and it's appropriate, but sometimes we maybe lean a little bit too much on the idea that God is kind of big and scary and this monstrous thing, and it's very hard to say, wow, he's my friend. Or sometimes we think of how God is big into making treaties and covenants. And sometimes when we think about him, he is this greater being than us. And so we, again, worry, how do we connect with this God who is kind of in a power position over us? Which is why in John 15:15, this is what it says. Jesus is talking to his disciples. He says, I no longer call you servants, because a servant does not know his master's business. Instead, I have called you friends, for everything that I learned from my Father, I have made known to you. Now think about that for a moment. God, the creator of the entire universe, who holds everything in his hands, God who conquered sin, death, and the power of the devil, God who knows all, sees all, and is in all, looks at you and doesn't say, I want you to just simply serve me. I don't want you to just simply obey me. But he says, I want to be in a friendship relationship to you. So as we go through this, I'm hoping that you think a little bit. As we do, who are some of your best friends? Who would you say are part? I think we all have different circles. We have a very close, intimate circle, our close friends, people we turn to at times of help. Then we have a larger circle that it's people we know, but maybe we don't tell them everything about our life, but we do lean on them for help, and especially in times of difficulty. And then we got a lot of acquaintances, people that like we say hi to, but we're really not friends with them. And then we got people on the outside of that, and those we call coworkers. They're just evil and they're really problematic. No, what I've heard here at Searchlight is everyone who works at Searchlight is happy. So, because the boss is amazing. We are going to be talking about how God is our friend, and then in those things, we split it out each day. So the first day was, God is a friend who is real. Oh, yeah. See, I knew Heather was going to be able to get it because she's like programmed into this. So remember, I mean, when I say, and the phrase will actually be up on the screen for you as well. So, but again, I've had a whole week of having kids be like, thanks, God, like at the top of their lungs, and it's really great. So I'm going to need maybe just a little bit more energy from you. Is that okay? Yeah, let's give that a try. So the first point we're going to figure out is that God is a friend who is real. All right? I think sometimes, especially when we think of being real, I think most of us have this kind of viewpoint about God that he's this, I don't know, mysterious, ethereal thing that's out there. We don't know what to call him. We don't know how to address him. Sometimes we often think, maybe is he even real? Like maybe we fall into a trap like what some people say is, you're just being conditioned from centuries and centuries of people wanting to believe in something bigger than themselves. So man just kind of created and initiated this thing called God. And he's not really real. He's just a figment of our imagination. And we might even say something like we ourselves are little gods. You know, it's really what we believe. That's the most important. But God makes it very clear he is a very real God. And there's nothing fake about him. So as we tried to teach the kids this, the first lesson that I gave them was real fruit versus fake fruit. So let's see how you guys do. Can you spot the real fruit and the fake fruit? Okay, so, and I'm sorry. I'm going to make you do what the kids did, which is, I think, is really cool. So if you believe that I'm going to hold one thing up, and if you believe that is fake fruit, then you all must stand if you can. If you need to stay seated, there's nothing wrong with that. But you stand, and I want you to turn your back to me like, nope, that'd be fake. And then if I hold up something you think, ooh, that's the real fruit, then you need to stand up and make a shape of the fruit. I only have one. It's a strawberry. I don't know what the shape of a strawberry is, so we kind of just did, right, Jerickson? Something like, I don't know. It was, an upside down strawberry. I don't know. Okay, so you got the rules? Some of you are going to be like, oh, I'm not going to stand up at all. Come on, you quitters. Here we go. All right, real fruit versus fake fruit. So if it's fake, stand up, turn your back to me. If it's real, stand up and make the shape of the fruit. Ready? First one, real fruit or fake fruit? Okay. Oh. Now, how many of you are being swayed by others around you? Yeah, some of you are like, I don't know, I can't. Yeah, especially in the back. Yeah, is it tough? Okay. So, all right, so here we go. Here's the other one. Real fruit or fake fruit? Yeah, it's... Melinda, it's tough, isn't it? You can't tell? All right, okay, good. Go ahead and sit down. Now, why is it hard to tell? You can't see it very well. And I think this is what happens also in life, is we have these experiences with God, and we often wonder, are they real or are they fake? Like maybe you've prayed for something, and then that prayer was answered, and you go, was that God? Or was that just a happy coincidence? Or God, I'm really struggling to find out what I should do with the rest of my life. And God helps and leads and guides you, and you go, is that God, or is that just the steak that I ate last night that's kind of causing weird things in my stomach? And so what I taught the kids, but I think this is a great lesson for you as well, which is, what is the best way to find out if something is fake or real? Oh, you want me to bite it? Yeah, okay. That's exactly what the kids said. And so which one's the fake fruit? This one over here. Okay, so you are correct. Fake bouncing fruit, real fruit. Good. All right, now, let's do it again, but how about with rocks? Let's see how good you do on this one. Yeah, we got a fake rock, and we got a real rock. So I'm not going to bite the rock. Yeah, that's exactly right. So I have a fake rock and a real rock, and the question is, which one's which? All right. So same rules. If you think it is the fake rock, stand up and turn your back to me, and don't rely on the people around you. Come on, take a guess. If you think it is the real rock, then you'll stand and go, that rocks. Isn't that cool? I like this kind of stuff. All right, so fake rock or what?
Which one of those two?
Yeah, which one of these two? So ready? Here we go. Fake rock or real rock? Is no one turning their back on me? Or are the rest of you waiting like that? No, you're not. You just don't know? Yeah, Heather can't do it because she. Okay, so, all right, so you're all saying this is the fake rock? Interesting. What do you think up there, balcony? This is the real rock? Okay, so go ahead and sit down. Yes, it was a little bit harder with the rocks, but I will tell you that one of these rocks is, in fact, a hide-a-key rock. So this one was the fake rock. And again, how can you tell if something is, because I have to admit, come on, that's good, right? Amazon came through good for me on this one, right? And again, how can you tell? You might even look at it, even like look at that. That's pretty darn good, right? But when you inspect it further, then it becomes very obvious. So this is helpful for us because God is not a God who tries to hide, and God is not a God who's scared of the truth. God actually invites investigation. He actually says, I want you to check things out. The greatest story of that is after Jesus had been crucified, died, buried, and then he came back from the dead. He was resurrected, and then he showed up to his disciples. And as he showed up into this upper room, there was one guy who was not there. His name was Thomas. And he has now gotten the moniker of Doubting Thomas because he wasn't there. And so all the disciples, they were like, oh my gosh, Thomas, you won't believe it. We saw Jesus. He's alive. He's resurrected. This is amazing. And what did Thomas do? He's like, yeah, show me. He's a skeptic. I have always maintained I really like Thomas because I'm one. Who here likes to investigate? Who here likes to say, yeah, and we don't just read what's on our Facebook feed and go, well, Facebook said it, so it must be real. Or, my friend said this, so this must be real. But Thomas was one that said, no, I need to touch. I need to see that this man is actually alive again. And so, what's the story? He's there the next night, and Jesus shows up, which, again, it's always funny because they have the doors locked, and he just kind of appears. Man, it's a good thing I'm not Jesus because I'd be doing that to everybody. I'd be just like scaring people. Everyone like, I'm here. But he shows up, and all of them, and he says, peace be with you. Why does he say peace be with you? Because they're all freaking out. And he looked, and after he says peace be with you, the very next thing he says is, Thomas, come here. Put your hand, put your finger right here in the holes. Put your hand right in the side where that spear went in. I'm real. I'm not fake. Jesus did this several other times too. When they were out doing some fishing and Jesus is on the shore and they haul in a whole bunch of fish, Jesus is on the shore. And what is he doing? He's cooking fish. Jesus is awesome because Jesus cooks food. And that means he also says he's preparing stuff for us. So he is, and then he also then actually eats in front. Jesus eats. Jesus' resurrected body has the ability to consume food, which is great news for us because when we are resurrected, we too will have the ability to consume food. Don't ask me, the mechanics. I have no idea how it works. I don't know who's going to clean the toilets if they bust people up from hell and then they have to do that, or how that whole thing. I have no idea. Or maybe you eat and no waste comes out. It's just like, and then no pounds go on and it just magically disappears, right? That's heaven, right? Yeah. So God says that I'm real. You can, and in fact, investigate things. I have always maintained that the more you investigate who Jesus is, the more you look into it, the more you're going to come away with faith because God is a friend who's real. There we go. That's pretty good. A little slow. That's okay. You're almost there. You're almost there. Yeah. He wants you to know how real he is. He is not fake. He is not a figment of your imagination. He is not something that was invented a long time ago. No, instead, he is someone who absolutely wants to know you, have you touch, feel, experience his love and his grace. So one more time, God is a friend who is real. Hey, you're getting it. All right. So now that God is real, we have to talk about the most important thing, the most important attribute about God, and that is God is a friend who loves. You're getting there. Yeah. By the end of this, you'll be amazing just like your children. God is a friend who loves. Thanks, God. I don't know if you need to hear this today because I tell you, I think people need to hear how much God loves them. I really do. I think all of us are, obviously, we search for our identity. We search for our purpose. But one of the things that we really crave in life is, does somebody love me? And we find that love often through a spouse or a boyfriend or girlfriend, find that through our children or maybe our grandchildren. But sometimes it's tough because we feel all very much alone. And God says, I'm here to not just be a friend, but I'm going to love you with an amazing and intense love. And this is what, I'm just going to read it for you. Ephesians 3:18. Paul writes that he wants, together with all the saints, to grasp how wide and long and high and deep is the love of God. The love that God has is so immense and so immeasurable that it is something that can fill every vacant hole, every shortcoming, every pain that you have, and he can fill it with his love. And we see this so clearly when he is willing to sacrifice his own life so that you might be forgiven of your sins. And in fact, we learned it through VBS, even while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. And with that love, do you have a hard time receiving that love? Is that something that kind of blows your mind? That how can God love someone like me? Well, I don't know what the answer to that question is. I just think it's a faulty question. I'd much rather just make a statement. God loves you more than your sin, more than your past, more than anything that has ever happened in your life. And I tell you, we tried to make sure your kids know this, but I know a lot of adults who struggle with this, who say, I don't feel God's love, and I don't know if I'm worthy of God's love. I can answer that question. Are you worthy of God's love? Absolutely not. You are not worthy at all. But God still loves you anyway. I think about our children, right? Do you love your children? Yes. Do you love your children even when they poop and pee on you? Yes. Do you love your children even when they disobey you? Yeah. Riley's like, I want to know the answer to this question. Now, that doesn't give us an excuse to do that, right? Yeah. God says that you are so loved not because you are worthy, but because you are his child. That's what is so crucial. And now, then God says, once I fill you with my love, what should you do with it? You need to start giving it away. This is also another massive, massive deficiency we have in our society right now, is we have a lack of love to everyone else around us. And I'm going to talk about him a little bit later, but this is probably most clearly seen in a guy by the name of Jonah, who did not love. He did not have love in his heart. And God was trying to say, look, Jonah, I love you so much, and then when you get love, you will be able to pour out more love than you could even ever imagine. And that's where I think we go wrong. I think we are in a position that we can only love to a certain level because we're loving out of our own strength. We're loving out of our own ability. And right now, I think most people's love tanks are like really super low. And that's the reason why if you're going to love anyone, who are you going to love? You're going to love your friends, your family, the people who are nice to you, all the people you encountered that are fun and look like you and act like you and talk like you. And that means then when you encounter someone that is a little bit harder to love, I call them sandpaper people, right? They just rub you the wrong way and they annoy you and they grate on you. And God says, no, you need to love them. And so we tried to help kids see that if you try to love people out of your own power, you will run out. Being filled with God's love, understanding the absolute immense ability to love others because God loves us, I think is really easily said. Now, this was tough because with kids, I was like, what's this? And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, it's shaving cream. And they're like, what's that? And right, does anyone actually still use shaving cream? Anyone? Oh. That brand Barbasol. Yeah. Well, yeah, I can't give it to you. I'm really sorry. But George, when you go to shave, how useful is the shaving cream when it's inside the can? No, it's not useful, right? So obviously the first lesson we got to do is the only way that the love is real is it's got to get out of the thing. Now, I got this glass here, right? And I'm thinking that it'll, right? That fits in there, right? So that means that the shaving cream should be something like that. Do I need to shake it first? I don't use shaving cream. Okay. Oh, there we go. All right, there we go. All right, yeah. And what happens with God's love? Oh, man, I am good at this. Wait, how long is this going to go? Woo! So you're telling me, and I thought this was great because we wanted to make sure that kids see that when you are filled with God's love, there is way more shaving cream in this little can. Now, of course, we all talk about compressed air, and yes, I understand all that, but look at that. And maybe if you are an adult that does use this and you've got kids, you can remind them of the incredible depth of God's love, and that all of that love came out of that little shaving thing. And we did another experiment, and so hopefully they're going to enjoy it over there, but we also put a bunch of popcorn into like an old-fashioned popcorn maker. And what happens when that stuff starts going? Oh my gosh, it starts bubbling over and over and over, and it is incredible. So God has called us. He says, Jesus is actually approached by some people, and they said, can you summarize for me all the commandments? And so Jesus says, yeah, I could do that for you. And they said, actually, which one's like the greatest? Like, we got 623 commandments in the Old Testament. Which one's the greatest? And he says, well, I could tell you what the greatest one is, and that is, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And it's funny because no one asked him, well, what's the second most important, right? Jesus wanted to make sure that he got the second one out immediately. So he immediately says, and the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. God is calling you to love your neighbor. Not just the neighbor that looks like you, acts like you, not the extrovert if you're an extrovert, not the introvert if you're the introvert, not the left-handers if you're a left-hander. God wants you to love absolutely everyone. Now, out of curiosity, when God says everyone, who does he mean? Everyone. It's really simple. All. All means all. Not just the ones that believe you like you. He even calls you to love the unlovable. He calls you to love and have something in your heart that has some level of love towards murderers and liars and people who drive slow in the fast lane. I know that last one is really hard to do. God calls you to love. And let me tell you, my dad was probably one of the most angry drivers I've ever met in my entire life. And it just seemed to get progressively worse as he got older. I understand him now a whole lot more. I drive like him. I'm like, who are these people and who let them get a license? Right? I'm like, how did you even, and then I see people driving and I drive by them and it looks like there's a 12-year-old that can't even reach the pedals. I'm like, how are you old enough to drive, right? God calls us to love others, but you will not be able to until you have God's love in you, because that's when you realize how unlovable you are. How you and I, when faced with our own sin, crumble and fall to the ground. Where if God showed up right here, right now, all of us would be so aware of our sin as we stand in the presence of a holy God. And we would all be terrified that all the things that we've done, just even in the last hour, God would look at and say, why? Why would you do that? And he doesn't. He comes and he says, I want to forgive you and I want to love you and let that love grow in you and then bubble out and be amazing. So God is a friend who loves. All right. And so then the third one, since you're on the roll, here we go. God is a friend we can trust. Yeah, now this one's always a lot of fun because I think it's really kind of neat. So have you done the sink or float experiments before? Right? Yeah, these are all kind of fun. I really enjoy them. And God is a friend we can trust, but I don't trust that table. God says in Malachi chapter 3, he says, I, the Lord, your God, do not change. He says, I am someone that you can put your hope and faith and trust in, and I will come through for you every single time. And on the day that we did this particular experiment, it was all about the storm that Peter experienced and the disciples experienced, and how Peter could actually walk on water. And it's a great thing. I really wanted to find one, but I didn't have time. Do Do you know that a bowling ball will float? I'm shocked by that. Apparently it has to be less than 10 kilograms. Is that right? 10? It's got to be under something because otherwise it won't work. So we're going to do this with you all. All right, so we're going to do a secret float experiment. You tell me, is it going to sink or is it going to float? That's pretty simple, right? Well, yes, of course. I actually just ripped it off from right over there. So we'll just put that back there. All right, and then how about a seashell? Sink, yeah, that one's easy. Better sink. All right, this one should be easy. Ping pong ball. Float, okay, yeah, you're right. Okay, good. Foosball. Oh, yeah, I did the same thing. Like I started grabbing stuff, and I'm like, I'm sure this will sink. No, it didn't sink. It's just floating right there on top. And this is where we especially wanted the kids to learn this. It's a little cheesy, but I still think it's a good lesson to learn. You have an orange. One of these is going to sink, and one of these is going to float. And I'm going to give you a hint at which one, because sometimes when we go into this world and we try to live our life without the protection of Jesus Christ on us, then we're going to end up sinking. So which one's going to sink? Peeled version. It's going to I peeled the thing. It worked with the kids. It was really, really cool. Yeah. Oh, look at that. Yeah, because what happens is then also you get mangled up in life. I can adjust my sermon if need be. Look at that thing. This is a great story. It happens to be one of my favorite stories of Jesus and Peter. They're out on the water. A storm is going on. Jesus is actually on land. He had told the disciples, go row to the other side take the boat to the other side. And they are paddling and they're rowing, and the storm breaks out, and it is absolutely terrifying and terrible. And Jesus is actually watching the thing struggle, watching the ship struggle in the middle. And then Jesus walks out to the boat, and there's this really weird line, and that's one of the questions I have when I get to heaven, is it says, and Jesus was about to pass by the boat. It was almost like, yesterday we had to go down to San Diego. It has been a while since I've driven to San Diego on the 5 freeway. I think that's one of the lower rings of hell. Is that correct? Yeah. I'm like, we're stopped. We're going. My GPS, I have to be at a place by 2 p.m. I'm the preacher at a service starting at 2 p.m. I hop in the car. The GPS says it's 1:40. I will arrive. And as I'm driving, all of a sudden it says 1:50, 1:57, 2:06, 2:13. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And there was this one time we're driving in the slow lane, and I don't know how this dude got on it, but there was a bicyclist on the freeway. Zoom, right on past. I'm like, we got to catch the cyclist. This is terrible. And that's what's happening here. Jesus is walking along, and the boat is just going up and down, and it's absolutely nutty, and it's absolutely crazy. Jesus is going to walk by, and that's when the disciples spot him. And again, I would have hated to be the first person to spot him and go, there's something out there. It's like a horror flick, right? There's no lights. It's really dark. There's lots of storm. Like, everyone's scared that they are going to die, and then there's someone walking on the water. I don't know about you, but typically people don't actually walk on the water. So then Peter calls out to him because they think it's Jesus, and they're like, Jesus, if it's you, tell me to come on the water. And Jesus is also punking them because, he doesn't say, Peter, step out of the boats, my friend, and come, follow the sultry sound of my voice. Yes, you can do it, Peter, I believe in you. No, it is much like Marco. Right, he says, Jesus, if it's you, tell me to come. And Jesus says, Elethe, which means come. That's it. One word. That's all he's got. That's horrible. I'd be like, Jesus, where are you? Jesus, I can't quite see. That's all he's got to go on. But Peter As he is trusting and he has faith, he has promised that God will not let him sink. But then Peter looks and something starts to terrify him. We think it's the waves. It's not the waves. We think it's lightning. It's not lightning. Peter sees the wind. Now, I don't know how that works. I don't know scary wind, but I think I've told you I have seen a little bit of scary wind once when I was at seminary, and they're like, hey, if a tornado comes, the skies are going to turn green. And I'm like, what do you mean the skies are going to turn green? Like figuratively? Like, I don't even know what that means. And then sure enough, I was there in class, and I'm looking out the window because I was really bored because seminary was really tough on my brain. And I look outside, and literally the sky was green. And I'm like, oh, I think we're going to die now. And the professor is still speaking. And I'm like, sir? And I point outside. He's like, we still got time. And I'm like, the whole classroom is all windows. I've seen Twister. I know it's going to happen. I am going to die. That's what Peter sees. He starts to freak out. He forgets the promises that God has made, and he ends up sinking. I don't know if you're going through storms of life. I don't know how things are. I know how easy it is that when we don't know what is going on, when we feel that God is far from us, when we feel like he is not powerful enough to stop winds and waves, when we feel twisted around like we've just gone through the rinse cycle in our washing machine, God says, you can trust me. I will always be there for you. And it's also cool because we gave another thing, and again, these are really cheesy stuff, but one of the things I hope is that when you do stuff throughout your day, you will remind your kids of God's love in whatever way. Maybe it is with some shaving cream. Maybe it is, if anyone here like to make cupcakes? No one likes to make cupcakes. Well, then never mind. Come on. Who here likes to make cupcakes? Okay, there we go. Got a few. Whew. The rest of you, who likes to eat cupcakes? Okay, there we are. All right, now we got it. All right. So I understand a little bit of science and stuff like that, but I thought this was kind of cool. Do you know that if you take a cupcake liner and hold it out, that it will always land on its, I don't know what you call that, the bottom? Lands on them. Even if you take the cupcake liner and hold it upside down, it will land there. And we had all the kids take their cupcake liners and hold it out, and we said, how much can you trust that this cupcake liner is going to land on its bottom? And every single time, except for that one punk kid who took the cupcake liner and went like that. Don't do that. But here is a great example of how even everyday objects, we can always point to what Jesus is all about. Can you trust God to forgive your sins? Yes, every single time. Can you trust God to always be present with you in your times of troubles? Yes. Can you trust that God will give you what you need, even if it isn't what you really want? Yes. Do you have a promise that he is always going to be with you? Yes. God is faithful. He never changes. He's not going to next week go, wow, you've committed a lot of sins. My grace ain't enough for that. Wow, I really tried to forgive you, but you're not measuring up. No, God is faithful every single time. And God is a friend we can trust. Good, there we go. I got a little bit. All right, okay. So keep going. God is a friend forever. Now, this one is really fun. So how do you teach eternity to children? Right? That's really hard to do. I know some parents know it. From the hours of 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. with a screaming child, that is about the definition of forever, right? That's just, yeah. Or your kids are in sports and they make it into the playoffs. And, right? Yes. And you're like, oh, please, can this just stop? I can't keep going like this. So as adults, we kind of have it, but we're all about measuring stuff, right? We can measure things. We're very linear. We go left to right. We're like, this is how much it is, But even this, if I keep pulling this out, what will it eventually do? It's going to stop. How do I teach forever to people? Not just kids, but even to adults. And so Heather and I, we were actually sitting in Chipotle, and we were talking about this exact thing. And we were looking up some stuff, and we found something that did a pretty decent job. And I thought it was kind of cool. Now, no, this is not mug root beer, so I'm sorry. Yeah, this is not mug root beer. This is just a bottle, and it's filled with water. But what I wanted to do was help you see what it means for forever. So I poured this out, and hopefully you'll enjoy this too. So you're born, right? Everyone kind of has a start date. And so they have a start date, and, it goes for a while, and I don't know, they become 3-year-olds. Then they become teenagers. Oh, my goodness gracious. And then they become adults, and now, you have to pay bills. And then, they go to law school, and they have to take the bar, right? And then, they become adults, and then they have kids of their own, and then they might become grandkids, right? And then things go, and they go, and they go. Wow. And I don't know, maybe you live a long life. Maybe you got a lot of gray hair on your head, right? And then ultimately there comes a point you die. But God actually says that if you believe in him, though you die, you will live on. So what does that mean for eternity? What that means is you're going to live more. And wait, if you call now, you will live even more. And is that it? Is that the end of it? No, of course not. You're going to live more. Is this blowing your mind or no? What, a little bit? Yeah, it was really funny. My son Joshua was up there, and he almost yelled out with all the kids present, "Burn the witch!" And I'm like, thank you for not doing this. But there was a girl that was sitting back over there. She was one of our helpers. And every time I did it, do you think there's more in here, Riley? That's it, right? Now it's done? No, because God is a friend forever. Oh, and you know me. Yeah, God is a friend forever. You're going to live more and more. Paul, do you like this? This is pretty cool, huh? Yeah. Is anyone think I'm a sorcerer? Yeah. Like I said, one girl in the back, as I kept doing this, her mouth increasingly got wider and wider. This is no joke. And she's like, and finally I was like, Carla, is this blowing your mind? She's like, oh my gosh, how are you doing this? I'm like, what do you think? Is there going to be more? What do you think? Well, now you already know me. Wait, how long will this go on? Well, we already know it can't, but yes. I thought this was a great thing. If you want to tell your kids about God's love and how long it lasts forever, which means you're always I love that. Riley was like, ooh, look at that. It's still coming out. Yeah. Yes, we did also spoil it. Do you want to know the trick, or is it just better saying God's love is forever? Thanks. Good job. Do you think there's more? Anthony, do you like this? This is pretty. Oh, you're watching my finger? You still don't understand? I held it the wrong way. Just so you know, this is how it's done. There is a 1/2-inch PVC pipe that is inside there that is about 2 inches off. So every time I do that, and this is like, when you have your little straw and you put it in the glass and you can hold it up and the liquid stays in there. So I'm causing it to stay in there as I pour. And yes, of course, is there more? Absolutely. There always is more. And that, I think, is a wonderful thing for you. And let me tell you how Jesus did it. Jesus did it in this incredible act of strength, an act of strength that was unlike anything else, not with armies, not with legions of angels, which is what I would have done, not with this incredible, spectacular display of strength that people could see and just marvel at. He did it by dying. He did it by humbly submitting himself to a bunch of people who were going to kill him. They wanted him dead. They were going to do whatever it took to take him out. And Jesus gladly and willingly gave up his life. That's how he secured our forever. He did it not with gold or silver, but with his holy, precious blood, his innocent sufferings and death. God is a friend forever. Hey, you're not doing the actions. Well, you are. God is a friend forever. See, I can tell because you got to. I can hear the clap at the end. So, and if you need to, you can always do that a little bit faster. Like, good job. No, I'm just kidding. So the last point, and this one's really cool. God is a friend for everyone. Okay, you're saying, I'll give you half credit for that one. That one's not too bad. This is the one that I think is really fascinating. There wasn't an object lesson for this one, but we just had a little party. But I wanted to make sure, and you understood this more too. In the Old Testament, there was a guy named Jonah. He was a prophet. And God had asked him to go and speak to the city of Nineveh. The hard part when we hear the word Nineveh, like, what does that mean? What or who are the Ninevites? And if you watch Jonah, you just know that they're a bunch of fish-lapping people. And it's not really that case. These are very evil people. These are so evil. Nineveh was the capital of what was called the Assyrian Empire. The number one attacker of the Jewish nation at that time was the Assyrians. They were massive, and they were on a campaign to try to wipe out the Israelite nation. And so when God looked at Jonah and said, I want you to go preach to the city of Nineveh, it would be similar to us if he says, I want you to go and speak to ISIS. I want you to speak and prophesy to the terrorist regimes, maybe Hezbollah. I want you to go to whatever. Now, this then also becomes a little more personal. I also like to make it personal for me because sometimes we think that stuff happening all the way over there doesn't affect us. Who are some of your enemies? Who are some of the people that you have a real hard time with? Maybe you are upset at people like the homeless. You think, maybe they should just get a job. Or maybe you're upset with people who have addictions, like, hey, get clean. Or maybe you're upset at a certain race, not because of their race, but because someone in that race hurt you really bad. And sometimes we think God's love has kind of a terminus. But John 3:16 says, God so loved the world. Again, what does that mean? That means all, that means everyone. God has an intense love for everyone. Though all may not receive it, it is offered to all. So that's why Jonah goes, and what does he do? I'm not going to Nineveh. Where is he headed to? He grabs a boat and he's like, what's the farthest place away from here? Oh, it's a lovely port town called Tarshish. It's literally hop on a boat, sail, 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 and eventually you're going to reach Boston, Tarshish. That's when you finally arrive. And so he books the passage. Of course, does God love the Ninevites? He wants the gospel preached to the Ninevites. He wants them to know of his love. And so he says, no, I need you to go there. So what does he do? Sends a big fat fish. Love it. Go. Scoop them up. And where does the fish spit them out at? Nineveh. Yeah. So he's now walking around. He's kind of bleached because he's got some acid all over him. He stinks to high heaven. And as he's walking, he gets to Nineveh and he preaches the worst sermon ever recorded. In 40 days, this place will be overturned. 40 days, this place will be overturned. What a great, I've always thought, I want to try that one day. I think I'll just walk downtown Fullerton and just say, in 40 days, this place will be overturned. People be thinking this guy's a little cuckoo and, he needs some help. But this is what Jonah does. And the crazy thing is, it worked. A lot of people talk about the miracle of Jonah being swallowed by a fish. No, how about the miracle of an entire nation, this capital city, which was the sworn enemy of the Jewish nation, the entire capital, including the king himself, converted and believed Jonah. Now, I don't know about you. I'd love that. One of these days, if I go through downtown Fullerton and I don't know, how many people live in Fullerton? 100,000? 5,000? How many people? I know you live in it. How many people? 80,000? Man, if I preached to Fullerton and converted 80,000 people, what do you think I would be doing the next day? I should be giving thanks, but the sinful part of me is like, wow, this is great. And I would be possibly rejoicing that God had just saved the entire city of Fullerton, that heathen town. But what does Jonah do? Jonah climbs up on a hill, gets a perch, looks over, and is waiting for God to destroy them all. And he waits. And he waits, and he waits, and it doesn't happen, and he cries out, God, I knew this. The reason I didn't come to preach to the Ninevites is because I knew you are a good God. I knew you are slow to anger, you're abounding in compassion. I knew you were going to have grace on these people. And even in the Old Testament book of Jonah, we know that God is a friend for everyone. That'll be for everyone that even you perceive as an enemy. Maybe it's a childhood friend who stabbed you in the back. Maybe it's a parent who you feel has abandoned you. Maybe it's a child who has left and gone to do other things and has walked away from you. Maybe it is a friend who used to be a friend but now is no longer. God is a friend for every single person in this world, and our job is to be filled with so much love that we overflow and we share that with others. So that is what we taught your kids, but more importantly, I hope that's what you know also as adults, so that as you go and you talk to your kids and their friends and your neighbors, that you are going to remember that God is a friend who is real, God is a friend who loves, God is a friend we can trust, God is a God forever, and God is a God for everyone. Okay, you know what? I did not do, Heather, go get the other Heather, because we got to get, I'm going to pray, and I'll pray as long as you get back. So if she goes out for a Starbucks and is gone for a long period of time, it's all her fault. But we're going to have the kids come in and do one more song, and then we're going to amp them up on a bunch of donuts, and then we're going to send them off with you, and that'll be great. Again, on behalf of Searchlight, thank you for those that had your kids here. We know that it is a distinct honor to have them. Thank you also to so many people that helped. It is a wonderful, wonderful thing to see people from decorating to singing up front to doing crews to doing stations. It definitely takes a lot of people to do this. So we hope next year you'll join us. It's called True North. We're super excited for it. So with that, will you join with me in prayer? Gracious Lord,